This is the Caliph Podcast. I'm Karusali and we are on episode 13. My guest today is Diana Sabrain, the entrepreneur and international speaker. You have founded and co-founded two companies from two different industries in the last decade. Today, your company, OneAgrix, is a B2B e-commerce platform for halal ingredients and food products. Services such as blockchain-based traceability and certification consensus check makes OneAgrix stand out from others. You are also an established speaker who's often invited to conferences and think tanks around the world. We are here to talk about COVID-19 impact on agri-food and halal food supply chain, food security, the future of halal food, and more. Diana, Assalamualaikum. Welcome to the Caliph Podcast.
Walaikum salam, Khairul. Thank you for inviting me here. It was a good opportunity to talk to the community about the numerous things that we're going to talk about today. I've read a lot about you, and
Mhm.
and it feels very good to be part of this. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. So now I want to start with, it's an interesting time right now that we are living in, and there's a lot of people out there who find it challenging. Lots of fears, numbers are going up, and businesses are closing.
Mm.
How have you been processing all of these events in the last few weeks?
Yes, so the COVID-19 crisis has is akin to, people say that it might just be like the Great Depression, where
Mhm.
the initial onset of COVID-19 saw us thinking that, oh, okay, everything is going to be fine
Mhm.
within the first few months, right? And then
Yep.
here we have experts globally,
Yep.
different governments saying that it might take 12 months for anything to be less restricted, and then it takes another few years for economies to recover.
Yeah. Yes. Correct.
So processing this for big businesses, to them is like, okay, fine. They have to cut their losses, right? But the ones that that for me personally, I cannot sleep at night is thinking about the small businesses
Mhm.
and small businesses, home-based businesses. I read a lot about the regulations in Singapore recently. They
Yep.
will suffer a lot, and like what I read about President Halimah Yacob actually made a comment yesterday or a few days ago saying about this, that if home-based businesses are being restricted, and that is that income when their
Yep.
spouses lose their jobs in a COVID-19 scenario. So
Yeah.
um, I know the reason why our government make such restrictions, but at the same time, I think there needs to be flexibility. Globally, everyone is saying the we have to change the rules of the game. Meaning things must be done differently. Regulations have to be not too tight. Laws
Mhm.
have to be not too tight. Like, for
Yep.
example, in the UK, supermarket competition laws are being smoothen out.
Mhm.
Basically, how do I say this? Not so strict among themselves. So now they can work together
Mhm.
to provide sufficient food products for their citizens. So I
Yeah.
think Singapore is doing a great job. But at the same time, I think we need to now decide on, what happens to these small businesses. Not only in
Mhm.
Singapore, I'm talking about globally. So
Right.
these are
Right.
the things that concerns me, concerns my team. Because we are looking at the whole entire economic situation, and we are saying, oh no, how are we going to help each other? That's important.
Yeah.
So communities need to help each other. When governments are struggling, big companies are struggling, the only way small businesses can survive is when communities come together.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But how do you, and how is it like, right now you're stuck at home, I know that you've always been traveling here and there for your business to run. And how is
Alhamdulillah.
it like right now to not do all of that and to help meetings at home virtually with your team?
The- Okay, so I do not want to say this because I mean, like, it is actually quite normal for us at
Oh.
OneAgrix, because we have different team members in different parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Remote working or conferencing via virtual way is actually quite
Mm,
common. It's actually quite common
mm,
amongst many technology startups, technology companies. But the difference is what we often can go out to, let's say, our office
yep.
to do the video conferencing. It will be done at
Correct.
home.
Yeah.
So lighting is a challenge. Let's be human here. And then it's quite strange, and I'm still getting used to putting on my suit, and then getting all dressed up for a meeting at
Yeah.
home,
Yeah.
right? And
Feel you.
yeah, so it's quite interesting. I wouldn't say that it was. I think um, those who have children, I think they
Yeah,
would actually be, a much challenge for them. I do see my
correct.
colleagues, saying that, hey, they're running around, is it fine? But I think it's important that everyone needs to understand that some people have old people in the house,
Yeah.
children in the house running around, and there's no such thing where you can be absolutely, they say totally professional, like, oh, find a quiet space, or some people just do not have the opportunity to do that. So I think
Mhm.
it, uh, yeah, so I think everyone needs to be more understanding and kind.
Yeah, true. I'm
Yes.
just curious, what's your thought on this current pandemic, COVID-19? I mean, is it a real virus for you? Is it a hoax, or I don't know, biochemical weapon? Like, what do you honestly? Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, now there are many views, and some views, there are many views on COVID-19. I've heard that it can be a hoax, it can be a bio weapon, it can be, some whatever that you have said, right?
Yep.
But what's important, I think, for us is to not focus on that part,
Mm-hmm.
looking at what is this about, whether it's a hoax or whether it's biochemical. In fact, we should now have, be positive, and we should think forward and say, okay, fine, okay, this is whatever COVID
Yeah.
19, whatever that we know that
Yep.
it has disrupted lives. How do we move forward from there? Because if we are
Mm-hmm.
stuck in that whole thing, oh no, I have to wear my mask, I have to look after my,
Yeah.
I have to do this, everything is so restricted, it
Yeah.
stunts your mind,
Yep.
and indirectly it causes depression. And you can see depression rates are high now. You know why? I
Yeah.
think this is where you can touch upon our faith, right? But at the same time, if let's say we just, okay, now fine, it has happened already, right? Nothing can be done. We can't change it, whether it's biochemical weapon or whether it's a hoax or whatever. It has happened. It changed life. Move forward from it. So I do have my viewpoints, but I don't think, with a vast community that you serve at Caliph Podcast, I'd rather not share my opinion on what COVID-19 is. Yes.
Yeah, okay, I respect that totally, but I totally have to agree
Thank
with
you.
you. You know, we have to focus on the future and the positives,
Yes.
like how can we recover from here and stuff like that. All right, for
Yes.
those listeners and audience out there who wants to know what OneAgrix is all about, okay, maybe you can share with them.
Okay. So OneAgrix is a B2B e-commerce platform with supply chain traceability, dealing with agricultural products and halal certified products.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is we match buyers and suppliers in a B2B. B2B is business to business, basically bulk transactions, and business to business, I've mentioned, in an e-commerce environment. But what makes us different is we do have, like you mentioned at the beginning, supply chain traceability measures on it using the numerous 4IR technology. So we use blockchain, AI, machine learning
Mm-hmm.
to actually solve the fraud issues that could come when food are traded globally.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, the assurance of quality.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so that is what OneAgrix do in general. So any businesses out there who sells packets of goods, or
Yep.
we do have a Malaysian guy selling his sambal on our platform, but he wants
Mm-hmm.
he wants supermarkets to carry them, so supermarkets could procure from us if they want to, because he's halal.
Mm.
We do have
Okay.
Singaporean company Pondok Abang also, one of our earliest supporter. He a brilliant entrepreneur as well, and he Hassan, he also he knew that we're a startup, but still yet he says, okay, no, he understands that the halal sector is growing up. It's a
Mm-hmm.
$2.55 trillion industry, very undertapped, the next China economy, but there is still
Yep.
no Alibaba of halal. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that's where we came out of, OneAgrix, where we do agricultural products, because agricultural products like vegetables and fruits are inherently halal, meaning it's already halal. You do not need a halal stamp on it,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And then halal products. So it opens the platform to to serve the 2 billion Muslim population by 2030 and the health
Mm.
conscious population. The ethical movement
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
the organic movement people,
Correct.
onto the platform. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So, you're saying that there's no other companies doing like what you're doing out there in terms of halal, is
No,
it?
there are.
Or
Okay, so
okay,
there are a few. We for us, what we in business if you do not have any competition at all,
Mm-hmm.
it then shows poor go-to-market.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that you're the first means, and you're the only one means it's a good thing. It can not be a good thing, because then where's your customers? Do people really need it? So actually, we do have there are earlier predecessors, earlier type of uh, e-commerce platform for halal, like Dagang Halal, like Zilza,
Yep.
like Halal Note. All of them actually are now. I don't know about Dagang Halal, but I know that Zilza and Halal Note, they are not operational right now. And
Yeah.
those
I read about the article on Salam Gateway, right? If I'm not
yes, yes,
correct me. Yeah.
yes. So they do, but those were the early generation one, where they do
Mm-hmm.
not address the supply chain traceability issue. And it's
Mm-hmm.
funny because the idea was incubated during the same time, 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Those earlier versions came
Yeah.
about, from the different countries, but there was payment issues that was not solved. When you do B2B trade, because of my commodities background, 6 years ago, I'm familiar that you don't swipe credit cards to buy one whole shipment of one whole
Yeah.
shipment of flour, for example, right?
Uh-huh.
There must
Uh-huh.
be certain B2B payment facilities, and
Yeah.
back
Yes.
then
Yes.
integration was expensive, and not only that,
Mm.
very unavailable. Available to big companies like SAP, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there is no way. So you can't blame the earlier generation marketplaces in the halal sector for not being able to be an Alibaba, because maybe they were not well equipped to solve the payment issue, and second, logistics issue.
Mm-hmm.
When businesses trade, even though we can Alibaba do not force their customers to ship on their platform. I
Yep.
think in this time, 2020, 2020, sorry, um, people have a certain expectation. If you want to help small businesses, you have to try to at least solve one part: payment, logistics, or payment
Yeah.
and so that's what we are solving. And then
Mm.
thirdly, in an e-commerce environment, if you notice the earlier ones like Alibaba, they didn't solve the fraud issues. So you get them having like 400 million um, dollars worth of counterfeited products.
Mm-hmm.
Businesses closed down because integrity is and reputation is damaged.
Yep.
There wasn't, but now they have the technology to do that. And OneAgrix, from the get-go, we knew that we need to solve that, and we have consensus check at the back end. So
Mm-hmm.
we are building an ecosystem so that our future generations next time know that whatever agricultural products or halal products that moves on the OneAgrix platform, that the food is safe and the food is really halal certified, because
I
there's halal
see.
fraud going on. The integrity issues in halal is a lot.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay, maybe we can touch that one later.
yeah.
For OneAgrix, how have you guys been responding to the crisis?
Okay, that's in numerous ways. But one thing that we received was lots of distress calls from farmers.
Mm.
So, the good thing is we have an official partnership with International Trade Center, which is a mandate of United Nations and World Trade Organization, right?
Yep.
And it opens our platform to an entire database of African suppliers and suppliers from all over the world.
Mm.
And the database easily 50,000 and up.
Oh.
Okay, and this is just recent. Okay, so it's not reflected on our platform because now our small tiny team has to now evolve and support
Yeah,
those
yeah.
farmers. So
Right.
when we did our initial campaign, we sent out the emails. We were putting our expectations like that, right? We say, okay, see, how do the farming community, the F&B manufacturers respond to e-commerce, because food and beverages companies often have too many middlemen in between. So what you see on Alibaba doesn't really mean that they are direct manufacturers. That can be
Mm.
middleman number 7, for example,
Mm, mm, mm,
right?
mm. Right.
So for us, we do things differently. We want it to be as direct as possible. So
I
what
see.
happened was we received like WhatsApp messages from
Mm.
farmers with all their extra food, because now what they usually export out, let's say apples, right? Now, if their country is on lockdown and there are
Yep.
limitations, yes, food can move because those are essentials, right? But the
Yep.
other countries might say no, I limit it.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? So
Yep.
now they have this extra food, and then they keep sending us our team messages. Please help me. My food is, my eggs are going to be thrown away
Mm,
if you
mm,
don't sell
mm.
within a few days. What am I going to do? Then I've got pumpkin leaves, cockerels, so many things. That, and then our team said, okay, no, you know what? We need to do something. Even
Yeah.
though we are a startup, we are bootstrapped, and we are in the process of fundraising right now, it's okay. We can still help, right? How do we help in a small ways?
Yeah.
So what we did was we came out of the OneAgrix Farmers Helpline. So we direct them to apply. We say that, okay, come, we open up the platform.
Yeah.
There are no charge. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, we were debating with that, oh man, okay, we need to generate revenue right now, but we at
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
same time
Yeah.
we need to help the farmers, right? Many of them are committing suicides everywhere. I'm not talking
Wow.
about India. There's UK. That this is public news. I'm not
Yeah.
exaggerating. You guys can check, right? So what we did was we did that, and then we had our first one. We had many, but first one who said, okay, let me come on board, which is a poultry farmer from Africa.
Mm.
It was very interesting. So she has lots of eggs. So we decided that, okay, with this OneAgrix Farmers Helpline, what can we do? So okay, we have that. We tested first one lady, okay, whether it would help, and then it worked. You know what? I'm so humbled and impressed by how people,
Yeah.
our communities all over the world
Yeah.
came and said, okay, rallied together and say, come, let's help this farmer. So we helped to save 6,000 eggs from being thrown away.
Wow.
And
Wow.
in our dean, we do not waste
Right.
food. And I
Right.
wish, honestly, we wish we could help much more, but at the same time, we
Mm-hmm.
were testing it, right? So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
saved
Yeah.
6,000 eggs, and then we
Yep.
had the Nigeria State Agricultural comms people liking the post that we have on LinkedIn. We have the who's who of, in the African
Yeah.
community saying that thank you for saving, helping our
Yep.
farmers. The farmers was grateful. We partner with two NGOs, Mama Moni, and which is supported by the United States of uh, government, the aid department.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Mama Muni was one NGO, another one was Sidika
Mm-hmm.
International, who helps the Muslims. She said the downtrodden who do not have enough food as
Yep.
well. So imagine, even though we are a Singapore headquartered startup with a global, workforce,
Yeah.
14 of us, but we are all over the world, we can make a change as far as Africa. So then we actually now have people from Indonesia asking us, can you do the same thing for
Mm-hmm.
our farmers as well? People in US, I spoke yesterday. She said, yes, we can do this for the farmers in US as well. So this is how OneAgrix, in the next few months, we would be from our first test with the poultry farmer and all the farmers, coming with us with all their food products.
Mm-hmm.
We will use technology to help with the food loss that they have and make sure
Yeah.
that they at least survive and don't die out. It's not about profits now, it's about
Yep.
survival.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I understand. I understand. So before, I'm just curious. Before this, all these farmers, how do they get their business running if they
Yeah.
never come to you and stuff like that? Yeah.
Yes. So the agricultural sector, okay, or slash halal, okay, has always been a very face-to-face business. So that's why
Ah.
there are big commodities house, like you see the Cargills, the Olams, in Singapore, the Norman Boys, where they consolidate all the spices and all the whatever food products that they want to move.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They are like wholesalers, distributors, some sort, right? So this
Yep.
is why I say by middleman, and then they sell it
Mm.
to supermarkets or
I
whatever,
see. I see.
Horeca sector, but mostly supermarkets and big retailers.
Yep.
So, however, technology now has shown that we can elevate the economic status of people who are really toiling
Yeah.
under the sun, which is the
Right.
farmers.
Right.
And
Right.
I want yesterday someone asked me this question, but it's farmers, but I eat packaged food. So what difference does it make? I was
Mm.
so shocked. How do you think the ingredients in the packaged food derive from? Obviously, it goes back to the farmers.
Correct.
Yeah, I always tell people that I think we cannot take things too lightly with food because we've seen how poverty, social unrest is one, causes social unrest. Secondly, it causes lots of unnecessary deaths to happen. I wouldn't want to say it, but
Mm-hmm.
suicide rates. It causes families to break down. So we do not want such things to happen if we are not serious about our food. That's why communities
Yeah.
need to come together, help the farmers. Singapore, there's no Singapore. We have no natural resources, but if we can
Yes.
help,
Yes.
our farmers in Indonesia, our farmers in Malaysia, do not underestimate. So on Facebook, there's this guy, which followed me, but I followed him as well.
Mm-hmm.
He and his wife, I forgot his name. I wanted to mention him specifically here. So what he did, he's just two of them. He went to the farmers in Malaysia. He actually bought their meat or kambing or something. I
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
recall what he did, and then he fed the poor in those
Wow.
kampongs.
Wow.
So if 2% can do that, how about us? You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So
Yes,
we
yes,
must
yes.
try our best to help those farmers. So going back to your question, how those farmers deal normally is they will, wholesale sell face to face.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the
and it
middle,
cannot be like that anymore. Yeah.
so the middlemen are the ones that is taking all the food from the farmers,
Most farmers and taking
most
most of the
farmers,
profits, and
most of the
farmers have
profits.
like $1 a day. That is not funny.
Yeah.
They
So
don't deserve that.
how do you educate farmers out there? I mean, across the world, that your platform exists. Where
Yeah.
you can just bypass the middleman. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So that's the reason why we thought in an upstream level. If we go to farmers one by one, and
Yep.
and then we go to the rural area just to tell them. And by the way, doesn't mean farmers in the rural area they do not have mobile phones. So they actually do have a form of technology. It's just that they
Mm,
need to
mm.
leverage it to sell directly. But okay, coming back to your question, what we did at OneAgrix was that's the reason why we push on our partnership with a governing body like International Trade Center. As I've
Mm.
said, it's a mandate of United Nations and World Trade
Yep.
Organization
Yep.
because with that we can reach out. They have already done the groundwork with going to all these smallholder farmers in Africa and in emerging countries that in their portfolio. So
Yep.
with that partnership, I had the opportunity to be at African Union Commission last year in Ethiopia,
Mm-hmm.
met with some smallholder farmers who said that, oh no, this is good, it helps us. And normally there is one representative, which is
Mm-hmm.
usually very, very educated, who will represent their farmers. It's like almost
Yeah.
like a co-op. So
I
they are
see.
always finding ways so that these farmers earn much more.
Mm-mm.
Yes. So that's how we create awareness by doing such strategic partnerships.
Yep. I
I think
see.
as a startup,
Okay.
you have no choice. You have to be creative, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Correct. Okay. So, what are the further concerns in the food industry that you are trying to solve other than this?
Yeah.
Are there
So
any?
what I've been talking is trade flows issue, right? Now, what is happening right now? A lot of even big companies are looking at, they are always relying on just a few suppliers for. Okay, I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
In February, I had the opportunity to tour with the director of facilities and government relations at Pepsi DRC facility. It's a
Right.
huge facility. So I asked him one question. So your sugar that you use to make your beverages, how many suppliers? I think if I'm not mistaken, only 2 or 3 suppliers. So they are called like a
Okay.
tier one supplier. And I was like, okay. But now COVID-19 has taught a lot of big companies, even not only small companies, that you cannot rely on 2, 3 sources. So diversifying of
Yeah.
your food sources is very important. You don't buy just from, you see, like look at Singapore, right? We rely on Thailand and Vietnam on rice.
Mm-hmm.
And now, in the news, it states that Thailand and Vietnam wants to,
Stop the
I mean,
contract,
it's
is it?
natural, right?
Yeah.
Support keep their food for themselves as
Right.
well.
Right.
But I
Right.
think they are now relieving that and, making it fair and still export. But I think it's, we cannot just rely on 2 countries. We got to open up. And e-commerce, what we did on OneAgrix is the thing that we want to solve.
Mm.
More consistent trade flows.
Yeah.
Companies, big or small, can find different ways. Can buy source food from different sources, right?
Yep.
And COVID-19 has taught us like, hey, you see, we should have done that from the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's one. Second is food safety and food traceability. Now,
Yeah.
these two is really hard to solve.
Mm-hmm.
Not every company realize or have the budget to do it, but over time, I think with COVID-19, companies rather solve that than have blood on their hands. If their food
Yeah.
is not safe, if
Yeah.
they're and if consumers have an expectation on knowing where their food comes from, even more after
Mm-hmm.
COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the next thing which ties
Mm-hmm.
together, and then food
Yep. Yep.
security issues. So food
Mm.
security is where it talks about trade flows.
Okay. Got it. So just now you talk about food fraud, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you can tell us more about it, like what's happening. Why is there fraud? Like for people like us, we don't know anything, right? So especially for Muslims, in terms of halal and stuff like that. Yeah, maybe you can share a bit more.
Yes. So when we talk about food fraud, there are a few things that you need to look at, right? But in the halal sector, we speak specifically about the halal sector. All
Mm-hmm.
of us are actually having blind faith,
Mm-hmm.
right? We are actually trusting halal certification bodies blindly and
Yes.
saying that, oh, okay, because let's say I cannot name halal certification bodies here. I do not want to get into trouble legally, but in general, you cannot trust X certifier, Y certifier just like that. There are many honest ones out there,
Yep.
but if you look at recent news, a few governing bodies are getting into trouble. Some people say it's fake news. Some people say it's not fake news. But then I do understand because it's business. You want to cover yourselves. But
Right.
at the same time, why in the first place such news come about?
Yep.
There must be grievances because if everything is fine, there wouldn't be fingers pointing saying like, hey, this HCB is corrupt, is taking under table money, in
Mm-hmm.
this HCB over here is not doing the processes right because they want to be money making. um and then when that happens, then how about common people like us eating the food?
Yes.
If
Yes.
at the top of the food chain, and then oh my goodness, what are we eating? Are we eating really halal food? And then you must remember, whatever you eat goes into our blood, it
Yep.
affects our deen, right?
Yep.
We, of course, we can say Bismillah. My late father always say, if you are not sure, doa Bismillah, and doa makan, just doa, um, to make sure that the food is halal, right?
Mm-mm.
But come on, I mean, let's be honest. Everyone wants convenience nowadays, so we want the ability to trust and say, hey, okay, this is halal certified, I can eat it.
Mm.
Right now, it has become this halal certified. Okay, let me read the ingredients first, huh? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it
Yeah. Yeah.
becomes to that point right now. So that's the first food fraud. Second is food fraud in certificates. Now,
Oh.
because it is expensive in certain parts of the world to be halal certified,
Mm-hmm.
now suppliers sometimes cut corners. Like, okay, maybe
Ah.
they certify for first year, second year maybe they never certify, they change, they counterfeit the documents, and
Yep.
this is a real thing. This is not something made up. Okay, um, we take the example of the ISO certificate scandal,
Mm-hmm.
happened in China, where ISO certificate is important in cross-border trade, right? People check all the certificates. Excuse me. What happened is, now they realize middlemen, or not middlemen, even the suppliers or buyers themselves counterfeit that document, and it costs
Mm.
hundreds of millions of losses. So this is what I'm trying to say. So it trickles down to the halal sector as well. What makes
Yeah.
us think our halal certificates are not
Right.
being counterfeited,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so these are the two main fraud issues. Oh, and
Mm.
thirdly, what I call an unconscious fraud. Okay, sometimes you see, and I think this will be a shock to a lot of viewers, a lot of procurement officers that procure halal food in the world um, tend to be non-Muslims.
Mm.
So who's to say when they go to a e-commerce platform, let's say Alibaba, okay, this is public news so I can mention, right? And
Yep.
you search halal and there's halal pork. The person who's buying that do not know, right? Because they think, oh, okay, as long as got halal means this pork is halal, because the person doesn't know anything about Muslim, what, right? You can
Yeah.
assume
Yeah.
people know anything about religion. They
Correct.
think it's halal
Correct.
pork, so they buy halal. But then, then look at our future generation. Then, what if they don't know any better, young children, and then they think, oh, halal, halal.
Yeah.
Hey, that's halal. Then they eat it, but it's actually pork. So this is the unconscious fraud, and not really
Mm.
fraud. Like, honestly, that I think just ignorance, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a responsibility. That's the reason why OneAgrix came about, because we are saying, hey, buyers, already you're non-Muslim, you can buy, because here we know that our leadership in the company, we are backed by, a lot of important Muslim leaders. I mean, advisory board, so we do know that the
Yeah.
food they are serving is halal. Toyiban is another thing altogether.
Yeah.
I know I talked to you about this pre-call,
Yep. Yep.
but first sort that out first. The certificate problem, the certifiers, whether they are doing their real job, are they amana, are
Yeah.
they doing
Correct.
really what they're doing. Yeah, so solve that first.
It seems like you are solving a very difficult issue in
Yeah.
terms of certificate and everything like that. So how do
Yes.
you how are you gonna solve that? You're
Yes.
challenging
So
the yeah.
okay, so that's the reason why you leverage technology, right? So we are
Mm.
actually in talks with a few certifying bodies in the world to actually use our verification system, so that any suppliers that are certified by them can consensus check before they list on OneAgrix platform.
Mm.
So that is the end goal in mind. It still takes a bit of process, and that's why we are fundraising, because it takes such a huge project needs funding. We have
Yep.
come to a point where we are year two, going to market, and this is where we know that we have a strong infrastructure already to
Yep.
solve that problem that we have set. And with the technology that we have, we can solve that problem. So I can't say, because I'm liable in a contract, in an
Yep.
agreement, which are
Yep.
the halal certifying bodies that are actually quietly doing this and trying to come on board using
Mm-hmm,
technology.
mm-hmm.
But I can say that it would be a game changer. It would give
Yes, yes,
assurance to not only our ummah, I'm talking about greater humanity,
correct.
where even in the agricultural sector, they can ascertain that these are ethical products. It is
Yep.
a hard climb, but it is solvable. We have the technology for it, alhamdulillah. With our strategic partners with numerous European conglomerates and technology companies. So we are ready to actually solve this from the get-go this year,
Mm, mm, mm.
inshallah.
I think like I've I heard about blockchain
Yeah.
technology regards to the financial sector.
Mhm.
So like when you share about, oh, I didn't know that blockchain technology can also be used in the food industry. So I think it's very interesting. How do you is that idea is the technology already there? Well, how do you know that you need to have this blockchain technology to solve this problem before that?
Actually, to
Yeah.
be honest, what we're using is DLT. Technology within it's a subset of what blockchain technology is. We
Okay.
have a brilliant technology team, a brilliant CTO, who is an expert at this. So when people talk about blockchain, it tends to be really high pitched. The entire industry, even the big
Yeah.
boys, are banking
Yep.
on blockchain as though it's the magic pill. The
Yep.
truth is, technology moves so fast. In a Gartner report, it really states it might just be, blockchain technology might just evolve into something else technology,
Mm.
XYZ technology.
Mm.
And we cannot, we must view technology as a tool, right? So
Yep.
for OneAgrix, our mindset wasn't, oh, use blockchain to solve something. No, that's why if you notice in our tagline, we do not mention that we are blockchain technology
Okay.
company. We mentioned that we are e-commerce platform with supply chain traceability. So the longevity of our company is there. Like
Yeah.
what happened to Fujifilm? They didn't evolve. They stuck to one technology and then they die out. We do not want to be
Yep.
a Fujifilm,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
So when we make it that way, it shows that as we go along, what we're solving is the fraud issue. Blockchain technology or not, it doesn't matter. For now, it is blockchain DLT technology that we use, but who
Yep.
knows? 5 years later, blockchain is
Right.
redundant. There's something better. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Anything about the food industry that you want to share with us before we proceed to other questions? Yeah.
I have so much to share, so I really don't know where's your focus to. Um, I'm open to share
Anything
about the food
interesting,
industry.
anything interesting, because for us, we have zero knowledge about what's going on, like, you know so when I met you, I was like, oh wow, there's actually so much going on out there. So maybe something like, like your stories, like the farmer, the distress calls from the farmers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's very, it makes me like more conscious and more, self-aware of what's going on actually. Yeah.
yeah,
So
and it's really
any
sad.
story, yeah, anything
Yeah,
that you
it's
want to
really
share?
sad. So yes, so you wouldn't want to stare at empty plates, right? At the end of the day, I think
Yeah.
all of us now have to figure out a way and come together and support our farmers, because you look, it's a trickle down effect. If you don't support your farmers, then the food manufacturers will not have ingredients to manufacture their food, and then it goes to the end consumers. What are we going to eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yesterday I had a conversation with a lady, an American lady, and she is a mentor in food X. And we were having in the US, in the States, and she was talking about, Diana, I think people do not understand how serious food this is. Like,
Yep.
our food, is it even enough? Singapore has great leadership in that. They don't make us anxious, But I'm also not trying to make everyone anxious here. No, don't food panic. But at the same time, be smart. Store up whatever important food, and then if you have some money, help the farmers. Like the two husband and wife team I told you about.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
can do that, find farmers and do that. So at OneAgrix, we are consolidating those farmers nearby, so that
Mm-hmm.
you guys can help group buy and help. We'll see, inshallah. If that happens, I will let you know. As well, support them. So if all of us come together and support these farmers in the
Yeah.
food sector, our food supply chain won't crash. And
Yep.
as I've said, these are public news. If you guys Google about food supply chain disruption, then you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is, let's come together and just support the entire food ecosystem.
Yeah. Like a crowdfunding kind of platform, something like that.
Yes. So we are actually doing something like that.
Mm.
We won't announce it now. So our
Okay.
team has been. I told you we tested with the eggs. So we
Yep.
are B2B platform still, but we are addressing the food loss problem and the food waste problem for the farmers. So we'll consolidate the farmers within our platform.
Mm-hmm.
Communities, basically your neighbors and you can come together and say, okay, let's buy this bunch of eggs, this bunch of vegetables. Obviously you can't travel. Let's say if it's from Indonesia to Singapore, if there's limitation, you can't. But at least we have options for you to choose which NGO, which
Mm.
charitable organizations you want your food to go to.
Yeah.
But the Africa story I told
Yeah.
you about, we partner with two
Right.
NGOs. So
Right.
we are now have been going to the numerous countries and saying, okay, which NGO we can support in Indonesia, which
Yeah.
NGO in Malaysia,
Yeah.
in Thailand, in Vietnam, that we can do that, so that the public can also bulk buy
Yeah.
and wholesale. So you guys do two things: you help the farmers, at the same time you help the poor people.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Very good. Very good. I'm glad you guys are working that out.
inshallah.
um, I'm just interested to know, like, why are you so passionate about the halal industry, about food and stuff like that? Like, were you this passionate before? Like, what made you so passionate about this?
Okay, I think the halal industry is a natural progression because I'm a Muslim, right? And
Okay.
then I still can remember, my father died a very sad death. So when before he passed away, coming 3 years now, I think 4 years, 3 4 years now, he actually said to me that I've not seen him for a few years. He was based in Jakarta for work. And so he didn't come back and forth quite often, so I didn't see him quite often, right? So he is also an entrepreneur through and through, until the day he died. Through and through he was an entrepreneur. So there was this one conversation. He said that I'm walking down the street, he said, and then he said that the poverty level is different. He said, not like Singapore. Singapore, yeah, we
Yes.
do have
Yes.
the poor, but if you go to places like Indonesia, like
Yeah.
like Africa is even worse. It's different. So he saw that and he told me that how are all these people being taken care of? What do they eat,
Yeah.
right? So he was talking about the food sector. There's so much waste, but why is no one feeding them? Then he talked about
Mm.
he saw this farming community and he wonder their stories that they don't get paid.
Yeah.
They own they because they take loans.
Yeah.
So, Muslim or not, they will like kill themselves because they can't support it. They feel there's no light in the end of
Yeah.
tunnel, right? But at that
Yeah.
time I was doing in commodities, like, but not like in an e-commerce platform way. So that's where, how it started is from that conversation. At the same time,
Mm.
it was a natural progression from the you say two industries, right? So
Yeah.
one was wellness, because that was in
Mm.
college, that was in
Mm.
school. And then
Mm-hmm.
second, it was in the commodity sector. I had a great mentor. And when we visited so many things, we visit rice fields in Vietnam. We dealt with the Vietnam ministry, and then we met people in the government. And I see that it's so archaic, it's so traditional. Like what I said, face to face.
Mm-hmm.
Everything with food is face to face. So naturally, I'm passionate about food sector because of that experience. And then move on to technology, because then the conversation with my father about how do we, there's too many middlemen. He was like
Mm.
saying, no, there's too many middlemen. Is there a way to solve it? He's an old man, right? So I say, actually,
Yeah.
yeah, Papa, I think there is technology that we can do that. And my late father, bless him, he always talk about, if Jack Ma can do it, he was a school teacher, why no one is doing it for the halal industry? at that moment I was like, oh my, I think my mindset suddenly changed. I was like, yeah,
Mm.
why should it's like you aspire to be Tony Robbins, and I do think you will be, and I think and it's a matter of time, right? It's the same thing for us here at OneAgrix. So it's that's how passionate, and like I can ask you,
Mm.
how passionate are you with Caliph? It's the same thing, because we
Yeah.
find all these problems in the industry, but then
Right.
we want to solve it. And
Yep.
if no one's going to solve it, may as well let's do it on our own.
Correct. With it. So your what was your late dad doing back then? Like he's an entrepreneur. So what business is he in?
So it's very interesting. So before the Asian crisis, so my background is
Yeah.
very, so we come from a well-to-do family at the beginning, okay,
Okay.
and then the Asian crisis happened, and then we became really, really like my dad lost everything. He was in the
Okay.
commodity sector, so I think you know where the inspiration came from. So I've always, as a young child, saw him, trading, saw him making deals, and he was actually what's it called, a registered accountant.
Mm-hmm.
So he was an accountant by training. So
Okay.
sometimes, at that point when he was still building his business, I saw entrepreneurship since a little child,
Yeah.
right? While he was building his business, he was working part time at night as a night accountant at Raffles Hotel, right? And then, after he did some deals, he quit that stability. That, because
Yep.
there's four of us in the family, right? I mean, four children, and he made it full time, right?
Mm.
So I
Mm.
see, I saw his world, in a shipping
Yeah.
world, in the commodities world, and as a young girl, I've always wanted to be like him. The funny thing was, he never wanted me to be like him. He said it's a
Okay.
very cruel world out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Commodity sector is very cutthroat. You're a girl, study hard, do well, be a doctor or something. It's very Asian, right? I said, no, I want to be like you. But okay, anyway, so he did that. From there, Asian crisis happened. He lost everything, and I think this is a lesson that we all, painful lesson, all of us need to learn. Never put your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
I think my father kind of like put his egg in one basket, right? It was a
Yeah.
regret. But funny thing is, my late father always say doesn't regret. He said that it made him even much closer to his faith. So that's where my influence in terms of being close to and learning more religion stuff,
Yeah.
quite personal for me, because I don't really share my
Yeah.
whatever I do personally, but religion. But since it's Caliph Podcast, so he taught me a lot of things about purification of self. He often shared with me about things from Sham Tabrizi to um, Rumi stuff. Rumi is basically just more quotes.
Yeah.
Uh, Ibn Arabi teachings. So many other teachings that I've learned from him as well. So
Mm-hmm.
in terms of understanding about our world, knowing God, recognizing God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So all that knowledge I got it from him. So it actually, from that fall, and then we actually stayed in a two-room flat. So it was very bad. All
Oh.
his wealthy friends ran away from him. So it was very, very,
Wow.
very, yeah, that is very bad. This is the cancer of society,
Yeah.
right? When you're in a good time, everyone flocks to you. And my dad, he was
Right.
very generous. But when he came, when he fell really badly, and this was a learning lesson for me, as I'm the eldest, right? So I see him one day and say, Papa, why don't you just ask people,
Yeah.
your money back, right? You helped them before. He said it doesn't work that way. But I was very disappointed. I was like, look at him, like, what is going on? But as I grow older, I think I learned that sometimes it's not like that. He says that, you just have to, when you give, do not expect. You'll be disappointed. And then everyone's rezeki is different, he says.
Yeah.
So he says that, you must trust in Allah. So no matter, and never ever underestimate anyone or anything, or even yourself. So just do things for yourself, but actually for Allah, definitely. But at the same time, tawakal, and just Bismillah, and do. Just give your best. So that was for him. Mm.
So you're inspired by he being an entrepreneur
Yes,
since young,
actually,
and like
yes.
how what's your background? Like how do you started off yourself as an entrepreneur as well?
Yeah, so you see that poverty that's happening there, right? And then and then because it was economic crisis, right? Asian crisis is one. Then suddenly
Yep.
there's another economic crisis wave, 2008,
Yep.
right? So there are crises. Yeah, I think my father lived through, like, for him. And he's not the only one. A lot of them a lot of the workforce, or business people during that point of time. That's why COVID-19 is scary. During that point of time, never recovered. So my dad never recovered. So he kept trying being entrepreneurial
Wow.
till the day he died. So
Wow.
never recovered. So yes. So yeah. So
Yeah. So the question is like,
yeah.
for yourself, how has your journey started as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know where to start. Okay, so my journey started when there was this one time where, I wanted to ask for school money, and then he opened his wallet, and I was shocked, right? I was 17 years old, and I was like saying, man, I couldn't keep asking this old man money. First, I'm 17, legally we can work. So I said, oh no, but I think it's enough. But actually, I have 50 cents. I was dying. I was like, hey, how on earth am I going to eat in school, right? Because we have our EZ-Link cards. You can just tap in school. And I was wondering, what on earth are we going to do? So at that point of time, my Dragon Boat coach was like saying, why don't you guys take, a coaching certificate, right?
Mm.
And then you can, maybe be a trainer or something, right? Okay, so this is how the entrepreneurial journey started. And then I met my co-founder, who was at the gym training, right? And
Okay.
then he was also at the same time dabbling on entrepreneurship and looking at one of the first earlier personal traders in Singapore actually, who use Google as a tool of marketing. So I've learned a lot from there. That's a side note. But from there, first it was a part-time thing, right? Okay, be a PT part-time, train clients, and the expat community is for one-on-one training
Personal
back
trainer,
then.
right? Physical trainer, right?
Yeah,
You're talking.
physical
Okay.
trainer. Yeah, so in the wellness industry. So I upgraded myself. I've learned from the best coaches. We decided then to make it a business. So
Oh.
so the interesting thing is because we leverage technology, right? We actually had a lot of clients. When there's only like a few of us. Now the fitness industry is saturated. There's so many
Yeah.
fitness trainers.
Yep.
But
Yep.
back then it was only like I think like 4 or 5 of us only.
Yep.
Pioneering, a decade ago. So
Yep.
that was when I still remember my first paycheck, right? I could bring groceries home. I could treat my
Mm.
little sister. She's 10 years younger than me. McDonald's. Until today, she will remind me of that story. Nana, you remember during that point. So to us, that was a lot. My
Yeah.
my father, he was happy but not so happy. He was happy that I took the initiative to help, but he said one thing. He said, you better make sure you study and you focus. He said that Papa never asked you to do this for us. It was his
Yeah.
responsibility. I think as a
Yeah.
man, he really felt that, right?
Right.
And an Asian man,
Yep.
some more. But I said, no, 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 Pa, I think we can do it. You can do it. I think in a way, I wanted to prove to him that I could help, right? I'm the eldest anyway. So from there, the journey of entrepreneurship started because of hunger, poverty. Honestly, now I look back after going to Ethiopia and going to all these countries, I think the
Yeah.
poverty that I had wasn't as bad as theirs. At least I still can
Right.
eat rice
Right.
and curry. You get what I'm trying to
Right.
say?
Right.
Over
Right.
there, they ate soy cakes. So yeah. So that was the reason why I started my entrepreneurship journey. Because I wanted my parents to not feel so bad. They've given us a good life when I was younger, at least few years lah, huh?
Mm. 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 Mm.
Before all the Asian crisis and economic crisis. So I think in a way, as children, my siblings are also exactly like me. They went secretly work part time, didn't tell our
Oh.
parents because we wanted to help them.
Yep.
Yeah.
So your mom has been always been a housewife, or?
No, you see, my mom, she sacrificed. Yeah, my mom, she is actually she is very entrepreneurial. She had her own shipping company. It was very small,
Oh. Okay.
but it didn't happen with a partner. She had a partner, so both females, and then she decided to get married, and then she had me, she had my brother, and then she said, I think a lot of women face this in their careers. Um, you know, oh, okay, it's okay. I'll sacrifice. I'll just spend time, quit my job, quit whatever business I have, resign totally,
Oh
and
man.
yeah. So she
Focus on.
didn't. So she
Oh.
focused on us children. So I kind of feel bad sometimes when I look at
Yeah.
her. It's like I think she could have been her own woman.
Mm.
So that's why she's very supportive of what I do. I think in a way she's looking
Ah.
at her daughter growing up, and
Yeah.
but I asked her, did you regret? She said no, because she said she managed to
Wow.
spend time with us. She
Yeah. I
doesn't
see.
regret. So that's my mom. Sacrifices mothers make for us.
It could have been a different. Uh,
Life, right?
yeah. If your mom were to pursue her
Yeah, it
shipping.
could be a different life. Like,
Yeah,
if my father was, struggling in a crisis, she could have gotten back to work and help. But because, it's been so many years that she raised us up, what skills does she have? She couldn't upgrade. So that's the reason why for her and for me, I do make it my personal goal that for female, we must empower them. And in a way, that's why I respect home-based business owners a lot. Because you see, many of them are housewife, but they didn't just sit down there. They
yeah,
also, they are,
yeah,
resilient. They do things. That's why it's very sad what I heard happened to them.
yeah,
Many of them cannot do their jobs because all these are income.
yes, correct,
Yeah.
correct, correct. What are the sacrifices and trade-off you made to reach to where you are today?
Hmm. A lot of sacrifices actually, but I do not get to spend a lot of time with my family, right? So that is a sacrifice I have to make. Sometimes 3 weeks I'm somewhere else, 2 weeks I'm somewhere else, and then that's one. Financial sacrifice is another thing. Whatever that I've saved, goes into the business because I believe in it. Some people, I would like to say here though that not everyone should follow that because
Yeah,
it's nice to have some savings, but because we have a vision for OneAgrix and an undying vision, and I have a strong team who also put in sweat equity. That's the reason why I'm able to sacrifice that savings, right? As long as I have roof over my head, and I still can eat, it's fine because sometimes things need to be sacrificed that way.
yeah.
But family time, yes, I don't. So a lot of video chat, video call. Hi mom, how are you? Are you sleeping? Are you not sleeping? I still can remember when I had to travel like for like 3 weeks, first time long flight to London. She cried. I said,
Mm.
Ma, I'm like 30 years old. You know that you do not need to cry. If nothing is going to happen. And I think it's because she fears because my father passed away
Yeah.
suddenly in Jakarta. And then she
Oh,
fears that what if I die somewhere in other country,
similar.
and
Yeah,
so I understand, and I'm the eldest and she's a widow, right? So those are the sacrifices. But over time she got used to it. She knows that so those are the sacrifices that you have to make. So personal life totally, people say there's work life balance. That is
yeah,
not true. There can be, but there will always be certain period of time that you have to be adaptable, and then work comes, and then certain period of time life comes. But one thing for me that I do not negotiate is my religion. Because my mother and my is always like, have you prayed, are you
yeah,
praying?
yeah.
She will always remind, and it can be like in London on Timbuktu, she will call me and say, have you prayed? She will look at the
Wow.
time and she will say. So my mom is like that.
Mm.
Mm, so those are the sacrifices.
I um I can relate to your story in terms of for entrepreneurs out there, right? Like who has a very like a compelling vision like yours, So they have this because I noticed that like those really great entrepreneurs, right? They really risk it all. They really like go all in. They really burn their boat, right? So it's something that it's not advisable to do. But then how like usually people will say like, oh, please have 6 months worth of expenses of your savings and stuff like that. Then only then you can do this. But and then there's another version where entrepreneurs out there who just throw everything they have, and go all in. What's your view on that?
I think it really depends on your own risk appetite, your
Yeah.
stamina, and your support system, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, I come from a family of entrepreneurs, whether small or very successful. I do come from that background. So
Yeah.
in terms of that, my late father used to say, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be a businesswoman, remember first, you're not Santa Claus. Second,
Yeah.
if you're going to complain that you do not have enough to eat, you do not have enough for everything, do not be an entrepreneur.
Mm.
He says, then find a job. Nothing wrong, both are respectable,
Yeah.
right? It's just different journeys.
Yeah.
Okay. So my for me, it really depends. Dig deep and ask yourself, are you able to withstand the hardship? It's not glory. People like to say, in the news, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm hustling, hustling. Yeah. On the day where you see you got not enough food, no diapers, no milk, no whatever, and then you start thinking, oh man, did I make the right choice? And then
Yeah.
now I do have friends who are entrepreneurs who have children, right?
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
ask yourself, are you able to be, fulfill that obligation first as a parent, right? That's very important. So I do have one friend who wanted to go all in, and I said, but if you have kids, how is that going to be? Like we
Yeah.
said, do you have like few months of savings for that
Yes.
specifically?
Yes.
Not to eat for your business.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Emergency
for
funds. Yeah.
that. Yeah. So if you have those funds, then do it. And the thirdly, how's the support system? For OneAgrix, we made sure that we have strategic partnerships to propel us forward. Secondly, we have the support of team members.
Mm.
So it's not only my vision; it's an aligned vision with 14 of us going forward, and it's growing. So for those entrepreneurs, find yourself partners, and
Yeah.
partners doesn't mean share of the shares together. It can
Yep.
be team members that you hire and say, hey, do this for sweat equity. Let's do a flow chart and a milestone plan in a few months. Are we going to gain revenue? Come together and see, can all of us pull in some funds here and there? If you
Yeah.
have such support, go for it full time, all in. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be like alone,
Yeah.
and then you have nothing, find something that you do on the side. Let's be honest here, right? Find something that you can do. Not every one of us come from privileged backgrounds where we can say this. We see, this is where I find there's a flaw and people do not understand statistics.
Mm-hmm.
There is a glory of entrepreneurship, right? The wild talk, right? Oh, do this, go all right
Yeah.
in. And
Yeah.
then there's a real talk where we see a lot of entrepreneurs that are normally successful. This is in news, right? It's statistics, but they often have a safety net.
Yep.
Oh, okay, my uncle can help me if I fall. I can just go to my parents' house and stay there, or my
Yep.
parents have some life savings that I can use. Truth of the matter is, 80% of us do not have such environment.
Mm.
So we have to be realistic and ask all these questions.
Yeah. Very true. Share with us your worst failures and your best business lessons that you have. Yeah. All these years of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize. You see, for example, OneAgrix growing, right? And then you see me doing two businesses before that. What a lot of things I didn't share was I was quiet for a few years before OneAgrix came about.
Mm-hmm.
And this was in between the wellness business and then the commodity sector. So I actually had a great fall. I still remember Barita Harian put 21-year-old young entrepreneur. No, I was 19, I think. A young entrepreneur in the article. By
Yeah.
21, she wanted to become a millionaire. So it didn't. In fact, I lost almost everything. No one knows
Wow.
that. It wasn't reported, right?
Wow.
So it was really a huge struggle. I was so depressed for a few months. I was like, oh my God, what's going on? And, I still remember the left side of my body was like shaking all the time. I was so stressed. We had employees. I was very young. I was a young CEO, you might say, right? And then there's the expectations publicly, right? Invited to the
Yep.
Istana during Hari Raya gatherings and all that. And then there is the real thing, struggling, trying to, pay checks. People don't understand. People always take the side of employees, team members. People don't
Mm-hmm.
understand. For us leaders leading a company, we do come with that type of stress. At night, we literally cannot sleep.
Yep.
We are not talking about being a CEO of a $1 million company.
Yeah.
With a 1 million paycheck. Sorry, right? We're talking about here, entrepreneurs just starting out, having team members to pay. So it was my greatest failure. It was very hard for me to recover from it. But then, I asked myself that, then that what's the whole point of being an entrepreneur then, right?
Yeah.
You're supposed to, get up there. So sometimes, it's funny when I hear a lot of people talk about their challenges and their failures. I was like saying, maybe I need to find a time to actually share that OneAgrix, us as founders, we do have failures as well.
Yeah.
And by the way, you're the first one that I've shared
Okay.
this story. We did fail before. It was during the wellness business where you see it's something called growing too fast, right? There's a term
Mm.
for it. I can't recall. So
Yeah.
what happened was within first year when we started the wellness business, we were doing very well.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, $500,000 in revenue. That was how well we had the gym and everything. And then by the time two and a half and third year, everything came crashing down. So I think in a way that maybe I was too young. I didn't have the ability to manage a team of a huge team of about, I think it was back then 11 people. To me
Mm.
that was a lot, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
young 19, 20-year-old with that responsibility, and I've learned a lot from there. So it made me go and overhaul, pause, and then that's where the commodity sector came about. I met my
Mm.
mentor. He sits on the board of Wilma. I was very fortunate. Wilma International is like the top um, palm oil sugar producer in the world, right? And he's his name is Mr. Tay. So he met me. He says, Diana, so how are you doing? How is your entrepreneur? I said, like, oh no, I hit some bad time. He said, no, never mind, come. Let me show you the way. And he's very old school. He's like 70 years old. He will bring us to Vietnam. He bring us to all these different governments. I dealt. He like literally tutored, put me in the water and say, now learn. You know, commodity sector. This is what your father did. This is what your uncle did, and you so learn. So
Yep.
from there, he said that the good thing is you felt really young, so you have long way to go
Yeah.
to be successful. And I think Mark Cuban said this before. When you're younger, you know Mark Cuban, right?
Yes.
A
Yes.
Shark
Of
Tank
course. Yep.
billionaire.
Yep.
He said that when you're younger, in your teens, in your early 20s, fail as much as possible. But coming from an Asian background, you feel like malu, right? Like, oh man, I
Yeah.
failed. How do I face the
Yeah.
world? So I had that initial few months of
Mm.
feeling down. But
Mm-hmm.
then after that, I've learned that no, actually, this is what will make me a better entrepreneur. So that's why a lot of tooling, a lot of learning lesson, the failure, get out of it, don't get depressed, get closer to God, zikir a lot, then come back again. You see, then in the end, whatever my father
Mm.
taught me came again,
Yeah.
came together. Have a stronger backbone, be upright, right? One thing my mother told me, no matter how bad things get, always stand upright, right? It is part of deen.
Yeah.
So stand upright, did that commodities, and then we went to OneAgrix. So it ties
Mm.
nicely. So now at this age, just turning 30 and going forward, I could say what a lot of people who are just starting out entrepreneurship at my age at, I felt really grandly, during my early years because I started entrepreneurship at 17. So now
Yep.
at 30, it makes us more investable because, investors are looking at, hey, she has failed before,
Yep.
much younger. Now at 30, they are primed to actually grow. I do have the necessary management skills to manage a huge team, to manage a potential billion-dollar company, inshallah. So that's the lesson from there. Never be ashamed of your failure. There are only lessons.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about the causes that are close to your heart. Yeah. So you stated like breaking the poverty cycles in family with children from underprivileged background, anti-bullying initiatives, and ensuring food sovereignty within communities to safeguard sufficient trade flows of food for future generations. And maybe you can just talk a bit about each. Yeah. Why is it close to your heart?
So I think the first one, I think it's obvious because we went through a lot of hardship as a family. I still can remember, as I've said, rice and curry. We share. I still can remember my dad. We just couldn't afford a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things.
Mm-hmm.
And the struggle is real as it gets.
Mm-hmm.
Four siblings. My dad is trying his best. It was economic crisis. He works odd job for a man who used to be white collar and a businessman to do that. I think but you know what? His spirit never falter. So in that sense, I think it made me always have that gratefulness in my heart that I told myself that no matter what. That's why if you notice at OneAgrix, we were quick to help the farmers because I
Yeah.
knew, oh no, if those farmers has children, what are the children going to eat? And
Yep.
then when you are poverty stricken, morale is low. So that's the
Yeah.
reason why that cost is definite. Is a natural cause, right? Anti-bullying was because when I was younger in primary school,
Yeah.
I actually was bullied a few times
Oh.
by in school. Um, I still can remember there's this one story in a school bus. I was from Hague Girls, so in a school
Hmm.
bus, there was Hague Boys back then, and I still can remember this guy until today. He was a head prefect of the school. I've let go of it, but I'm just telling you how bad it was. And he would taunt me all the time. And there
Mm.
was this one time where his those boys in the school bus put glue on his seat. He sat on it, and everyone's decided to say that it was me. And
Oh.
then I was like this quiet primary school girl, and he actually said, I still remember his name was Felix, right? And he suddenly said that, oh, if you do not, he dragged me to the, stop at my school gate. He dragged me to the bus. I'm going to bring you to the school principal right now,
Wow.
right? I said, but I didn't do it. He says, no. Okay, unless you admit to me that it is you, then I will let you go to school. Then I had no choice at that time. I was so scared. I was like, what, 9? I
Mm-hmm.
said, no, I did it, but I didn't. So until today, I had that feeling like, oh man, that is like, so I fear. And there was one time I locked myself in the room because there was a boy who kicked me in the stomach. He think it was funny. He this Thai boy, he kicked me in the stomach, and I was like, what's going on, man? Bullying is a huge thing,
Yeah.
right? It cause and I locked myself in the room as a young child in primary school, and my dad one morning, he said, can you come out in the room? Why are you in the room? Diana, come out in the room. Why you start your school bus? He said, I don't want. So I told him I had no chance to tell my father, right? My
Mm-hmm.
father was so mad. My father said, why didn't you say anything? I said, when they go and tell them, as a small child, right?
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
scared. It's either I'm not saying that you should lie, but I'd rather not get into trouble with the principal. It was just young children thinking
yeah,
back
yeah,
then.
yeah.
So and then there was this one time there was a teacher in my school who decided to pick on me because I was a minority race. What I was proud of was my friend, a Chinese girl, stood up for me and said, why are you picking on Diana? Right? Is it because she is a minority race? And I was like, what's that going on? Then, she, her name, bless her. I still keep in touch with her till today. This Chinese lady, she said, that no, it's obvious, she's just bullying and picking on you. So when you
Mm.
experience such things at a young age, it changes your whole
Yeah,
mindset. You get what I'm
yeah,
saying? It changes the whole mindset. You do not want um, kids to be bullied because do you hear stories about kids being bullied? Now, cyber bullies are much
yeah.
worse because everyone
Yes,
keyboard
right,
warrior, right?
right.
And then you see suicide cases happening,
Yes.
right? I'm blessed because I had early intervention.
Yep,
My
yep.
father told me, it's okay. But how about those other children that are
Correct.
suffering? How? And I think you have a child, right? And you wouldn't want anything to happen that way.
Right.
So that's when I say anti-bullying initiative was because of a personal experience. So for me, whatever that you see in my courses are all something that I've experienced before.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think it is our obligation that you do not want first to be a bully, second, to not help in the those who are being bullied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
lastly, food sovereignty. Naturally, of course, you talk about the passion of food, about food being important. What goes into our body affects our gene, and you talk about poverty in the world. I think food can be spreaded and cross border traded consistently and shared across the world. There's so much food. This is funny. There is so much food in the world, but not being given, spread, shared among with the poor.
Yeah.
So actually, there is no reason to be poor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So food sovereignty is very important.
Okay. You are labeled as a visionary. So how do you acquire that, and how does one being a visionary, but also get the job done?
Honestly speaking, I do. Okay, that was people what reporters or
Yeah.
people write.
Yeah.
Okay, for me, I do not see it that way. I've always found that vision comes from. There's no one person can think of one thing. There's a saying, for every one idea there are 10 people who thinks about it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But for us at OneAgrix, the entire team, we are the one who create the vision. I do not know whether we can classify ourselves as visionaries, but we do have feedback that people say that the solutions that we are giving right now to the world with OneAgrix would make a better world. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
reason why they say that we are visionaries, right? But
Mm.
honestly, for us, it's just pretty much this is a problem, find a solution. If the solution is not good enough, improve yourselves. So I think maybe in a way when we take that approach of problem solving
Yeah.
and executing rather than say there are two types,
Yeah.
right? You either say and then never do, or you take action. For us, no
Yeah.
matter how small the action, like for example our OneAgrix Farmers Helpline, we are a
Yeah.
small company. How much can we help? But it's okay, we help. So I think in that sense, maybe that's why people say that, right? Because we always make sure that we execute what we say we do. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Okay. On a personal level, what is that one area in your life that you are struggling with and wish to improve on? Maybe you can share.
Yeah, there's so many things, right? I always, for me, I tend to be a very self-critical person. And actually an omnivore. mostly towards introvert. It may seem now that it's extroverted, right? But that is one of the weaknesses that I have.
Mm-hmm.
I have to really get out there, force myself to speak upfront. Be an international speaker, be a representation for our
Yep.
ummah, a Muslim lady who is a non-hijabi. Be a modest representation, right? And sometimes I struggle with that as well because I feel that I'm like an imposter, right? They talk about the imposter syndrome, but my advisors, they are brilliant. Sister Salama Evans, based in the UK, and Brother Rushdi Siddiqui, based in New York. They say no. You you are doing well. Okay, you're not being an imposter syndrome. Whatever you're doing, people feel the impact. So I
Yeah.
think that's the one thing that I'm struggling with because I feel that, hey, we are pre-funded, we are
Yep.
bootstrapped. I think they call
Yep.
it founders insecurity. We are growing, but at the same time, you're like, I need more capital for
Yeah.
us to grow our company, right?
Yeah.
So that's the one area that I'm struggling with, and I think
Okay.
founders need to be honest with themselves. Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes I struggle with, even though I talk a lot about purification of the soul, zikir.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can zikir like 10 million times and and then still not sleep at night and still
Yep.
not be at peace. And I think that it takes a certain vulnerability, sorry,
Yep. Yep.
to actually admit that, right? No one of us is perfect, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a part that I need to improve on, and like not try to be so controlling of the outcome, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think for me, I feel that a lot of things can be done. I'm a
Yep.
perfectionist, but at the
Yep.
same time, you have to learn to let go. I trust my team totally, but sometimes I come a point where it's a challenge. Like hey, you need to help 20,000 farmers, and our team needs to work much quicker. But at the same time, I must learn to trust and in Allah much more because we are only 14 size small. We are
Yep.
bootstrapped.
Correct.
We need to help ourselves be healthy, look after ourselves. So looking after myself, that's a struggle because I tend to always think about others in that sense. I think because I'm the eldest in the family,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I tend to like, oh no, are you guys good? Are you guys okay? So one day, my advisor, Sister Salama, says, Diana, you can't solve everything in the world,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Pick your battles. It's okay,
Mm.
But I told
Mm.
her about how, a lot of people are suffering. She said, it's okay. There are many others. If you don't take care of yourself, you wouldn't have the stamina to go on. So that's a challenge, and I'm getting better at it. I have to admit, I do take breaks now. I try to sleep earlier. I switch off my notification, my emails on the phone,
Yeah.
because if I see that, I just cannot see. I think I was messaging you what time, right? So those are the real struggle, and I believe that I could be still a better Muslim, honestly. I think I could have been much, much better. And I'm blessed that I have, one of our team members, he's always from Africa. He's always constantly reminding everyone, tahajjud, do
Wow.
your Senin Kamis fast, all the way to Africa, huh? You see?
Wow.
They are suffering much more than us. And I'm so blessed. In our organization, even though I'm CEO, we have open communications, and I think it's important. The
Mm-hmm.
culture of the
Mm-hmm.
company, being Islamic at heart, is like that. We also have non-Muslims, by the way, for diversity
Mm.
of the company,
Nice.
and they
Wow.
are spiritual as well.
Mm.
So yeah, so those are challenges, and those I'm very glad to have a support system to improve.
What is the worst advice you ever heard or see that is being dispensed in your world?
In the food world, agri world,
Personally,
tech world,
personally. Uh,
personal.
yeah, personally, like any advice you got from, I don't know, your aunties or someone, uh, I don't know, yeah,
Okay, but
in
see that will
general.
hurt people's feelings, man.
No, it's okay. I mean, yeah,
Okay. What's advice? Okay, the thing is, worst advice to me might not be a worst advice to any of you, right?
sure,
So I
sure,
will
sure,
say that disclaimer first, right?
sure.
But at the same time, so there was one time a family member said that, you're jobless. I'm an entrepreneur, but I cannot jobless. So I was like, you're jobless. Go and find a job. And I was like, do you read and do you see what I'm doing? And and sometimes when family members say such things, they say out of care and concern. I understand
Yeah,
that, but at the same time, it can be at the worst timing that you say that when I need the most confidence from an auntie or an uncle, I do not need to be told that go and find a real job, right? I'm like, huh? Do I really need to find a real job right now? And then you start getting this self-talk in your brain, oh yeah, maybe I'm being like useless right now, right? I'm being like, atas angin, they were saying like, you think clouds are in the
Yeah.
air, and what makes you think you can be the next Alibaba, right? That kind of talk. So for a while I was like, oh my god. And then after I snapped out of it, I told myself, no, they are giving that advice, even though it's worse advice for me at that moment. This was a few years ago, but at the
Mhm.
same time, I recognize and understand they do it out of love.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the worst advice, because if we had followed that advice,
Yeah.
OneAgrix wouldn't grow now. Like I said,
Yeah.
we appeared in the World Economic Forum newest blockchain deployment toolkit, and we are a tiny company. We are there with big companies like Cargill in the publications. So
Nice.
so if I've taken that, and when I get a job, we wouldn't be where we are right now.
I'm glad you didn't take that.
Alhamdulillah, but it was well intended.
Okay, coming to the last few questions. I always ask this to all my guests. So what makes a great leader?
I think what makes a great leader first is, okay, I'm saying this because it's Caliph Podcast, right? And I can say it. It's not a secular
Sure, sure.
interview. But what makes a great leader is first recognizing that whatever that we have no power, right? Whatever power that we have is Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. That is very most important thing, because it keeps your feet on the ground, and your head's not in the clouds, right? You got to always remember that whatever that you're given is not yours. It's all God's, and then we must be responsible for whatever that we're doing. As a leader, we try to be as best as we can. We are all humans. We will make mistakes, but then don't repeat them. Learn from it. At the same time, have that recognition in your heart of gratefulness. So when you lead your organization with gratefulness, with a conscious awareness that you do not have ultimate power, you got to trust in God. Okay, then that would naturally lead everyone in the team in a very positive energy. So that's one. Secondly, what makes a great leader is their team. Their team members would make you a great leader. So I've
Mhm.
learned so much more, rather than doing a business alone, with people in my team. So
Mhm.
a great leader would lift each other up, and then will make other leaders, right? And that is what would also make a great leader. And third is to listen more than you speak. This is very important. You listen more when you speak. You are able to gain perception and awareness throughout. And lastly, what makes a great leader is the openness to always learn from everyone. You need to always learn from everyone. So if you notice, if you go back to all this that I've
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
number one comes from, because when you know that you do not have all the power in the world, you know that you got to rely on others as well. So have that humility to know that
Yeah.
you do not stay up there forever. um, New blood comes about. Have that openness and awareness. Inshallah, everything will be fine.
Wow, very nice. I loved it. Okay, thank you so much. We have come to the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
I think it's been more than 1 hour, but I think
Yes,
so much
I
value.
hope your viewers are okay with this. I hope. I don't know whether I delivered value, but in my own humble heart, I wanted to say, all the best to all businesses out there. Home-based business owners, don't give up. Um, if you need anyone to talk to, I'm not saying that I'm always free, but you can add me on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever. I'll be there. Don't give up hope. Things will get better.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so thank you so much, Diana, for this interview. I it's Ramadan, so I think may Allah reward you for this, and make it easier for you to reach your goals, OneAgrix goals and stuff. Because we really need Alibaba of halal
Inshallah,
industry,
we
inshallah.
try our
So
best. Together, we can do it. Inshallah.
thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much for the opportunity. And remember, in the next few months, I would love to see that you reach that height of the Tony Robbins. You can do it.
I mean, thank you.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.